than just a niyyah. When he awakens, Ibn al-Qayyim continues, when this person awakens, his awakening leads him to thinking, which is the name, thinking is the name for the focusing of the heart on his sought after goal, for which he is now prepared. You're prepared now. But only in a general way. You're prepared in a general way. Huh? Yes, you have the niyyah, you want to get to Allah, you want to get closer to Him, you want to get to Jannah. You want to live life on the way of Allah, the way Allah desires. In a general way. Not yet knowing its specifics. Nor the way to which it will lead. Right? This is when the next parts come of learning about Allah, knowing Allah. That's the most essential part of your journey that will help you across your stations, which is truly, truly knowing God. Ala kulli hal, so the idea that I was trying to get at here is that the resolve, azm, is not a fleeting thought. Azm is not a resolution the way we understand it, but rather it is something that is ibadah. It is something that is ibadah. It is worship. It is not just simply, yeah, it happens. Now, so when it comes, so this is part of the first station. And so Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he then, going onwards, he then quickly mentions what the station of resolve means. Like, okay, we've spoken about resolve, resolutions, let's define it. Yeah? Let's come to a definition. He says, when one's purpose is consolidated, when your niyyah, when your qasd, when your purpose is clear, you've gathered your purposes together, it turns into firm resolve that necessitates the onset of the journey, accompanied by a reliance upon God. God the Exalted has said, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Once you have resolved, trust God. Right? So like part of your resolve is to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's to not just merely, but it's like, it's only through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will I be able to continue this path. Right? Resolve means firm purpose. What does resolve mean? Firm purpose joined with action. Firm purpose joined with action is resolve. That is why it has been said that it is the onset of the movement to seek what is intended. It's that initial motion. Not only, and anyways, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he goes on and he says, not only is it the initial motion, because again, it's not an intent, it's action with intent. Not just intent, but your purposes are clear. Right? So it's not really a goal, ikhwah. What the idea here is that it's not a goal. It's actions. It's habits. It's a way. That's what resolve is. It's not at the beginning only, but it's through life that your resolution needs to stay firm with action. Your resolve is what will carry you in the middle of your journey and what will get you till the end of your journey, which is death itself. So for us, resolutions, the reason why we said the perpetual resolution, the eternal resolution, because your resolution is not restricted to the year. It's for life. You're in it because you were born. And your path to God, your journey to Allah, is till your death and after it. It's eternal. And the resolve, the azm that you need is something that will be there throughout your time. Right? That's the idea of a resolve that we should be looking at and we should be trying to understand. Now, as I said, that this science, the science of tazkiyah, is the psycho-spiritual science of Islam. It's the psychological understanding of the human being with the spiritual, because we do not separate the two. The spirit, the soul, is where the mind lies, according to the Sharia. The qalb, the heart, is a psycho-spiritual heart. It's not the physical beating heart that we anatomically study, but rather it's the heart in which the mind lies itself as well. It feels, it hurts, it thinks. Right? And so the psycho-spiritual science of Islam is this science, tazkiyah. Hayatul qulub, the life of the heart. Now, with that being said, there is absolutely nothing wrong with coupling that with modern techniques in how to implement this. So we said that you have a resolve. And what is a resolve? What is a resolve? We've been speaking about this since the beginning, and we just got to it. So what's a resolve? Can someone tell me? Huh? A resolve. Okay, we said it's not a goal. So no, it's not a goal. What else is it? What else could it be? It's an action. But is it just an action? Huh? It's as strong as? Your awakening, your intent. Very good. So it's the combining of your purpose, your intent, after your awakening to God, with action. Right? So the point here is there is nothing wrong in helping yourself implement this through modern psychological help and aid. Right? So think of tazkiyah as divine help, not self-help, but divine help from God. Right? So it's not self-help, nor is it just therapy, nor is it just psychology, but it's divinely ordained knowing of yourself through the Quran and Sunnah. Right? And so the point I'm trying to get at here is that it's okay to take aid in other ways. And we brought down that resolve. How do you implement a resolve? It's through habits. Through habits. How else are you going to change yourself, right? Like if you think about, okay, I want to be healthy for the sake of Allah. I want to be a strong believer. You know, as the hadith of Prophet ﷺ goes, that al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if wa fi kullin khayr. That the Prophet ﷺ said that a believer who is strong is better and more beloved to Allah than a believer who is weak. And over here, belief and strong are being separated. As in, we're not talking about strength and belief. We're talking about another type of strength, which is physical. Mental. Both. Physical and mental. So this believer is more beloved to Allah than a weak believer, one who is mentally frail and physically weak. Right? وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ. And in both of them there is khair, the Prophet ﷺ said. So habits are what define us as human beings. Now there's a really good book that helps, that is like outside of this whole self-help industry that's just made around all of this weirdness and Buddhism and self-help gurus and whatever else. This industry is intrinsic to shirkiyat, and making yourself your own God. Everything comes back to your self-worship, right? Do it because it's good for you. Do it because it satisfies you. At the end of it, it's all you. It's like literally ibadatun nafs. It's literally the ibadah of the self, right? And so this is why we do away with this paradigm. And the paradigm is God-centric. It revolves around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, turning to God, sinning against God, right? This is why the Prophet ﷺ's dua is, Allahumma la manja wa la malja minka illa ilayk. Oh Allah, there is no hiding from you, and there is no saving from you except from you, Ya Allah, by you. And I can't run from you. Nobody can hide me from you. Nobody can save me from you except you, Ya Allah. So forgive me and have mercy upon me. Right? And so this is why, again, it's not self-help, but it's divine help. Anyways, so it's fine to take the things that don't oppose the Quran and Sunnah in our understanding of the world, the lenses through which we see the world, the correct lenses of God, right, which have been bestowed upon us through revelation. A good book for this is it's a well-known book. It's called Atomic Habits, right? A book that talks about how to build habits, small ones, things that you might consider insignificant, right? He starts the book off with, before I give like a summary of the thesis of the book, he starts the book off with a point where he says habits compound like interest, one after the other, and then they slowly give their results. 1% better every day is a lot better in the long run, right? So he starts the first chapter off with some British cyclists, the British cycling team, which was the worst in the world. The worst. They had never won anything. To the point that a bicycle company prohibited selling to them, because if they sold their bikes to them, it would affect their sales, because it would give them a bad rep that, oh, this team uses our bicycles. To that extent, they were that bad. And then, so this is from 1902 to 2003, right? Then they hired somebody, whose name is Brailsford. He was the new manager who was hired for the team after 2003. And he implemented a strategy which is called the aggregation of marginal gains. Aggregation as in the gathering, the putting together slowly of marginal gains. And so you can see where this is going here. The idea was that if you broke down everything about cycling, about bicycling as a sport, and if you could figure out a way to increase their outcome by 1%, it would make a major impact. That was his idea. Because it all aggregates. And once it does, it makes a really big difference. Right? So things like bike seats, things that you wouldn't think about. Like bike seats, he changed those. To make it more comfortable. He tested for the right type of fabric to give the bike more aerodynamics. He did small little things like this, which surprisingly, these small little gains of 1%, they added up to the point where the team ended up winning 5 Tour de France, which are the biggest bicycling sport in the world, like one of the biggest contests. 5 of them in 6 years. 5 out of 6 they won. After implementing this technique from 2007 to 2017. They won over 178 world championships and 66 Olympic gold medals. Okay. These are the same guys who the bikes, they weren't selling them to because it would ruin their brand name. Right. How did these people become so amazing in just a span of 10 years from 2007 to 2017? It wasn't because, they started doing super sane workouts, or they became, they went to another world and they came back or something, or they were given a magical pill the way we would think. No, it was just simply through small, little, constant changes that when put together slowly make the biggest difference. Right? You can be doing anything small, actually, and it will affect you severely. Things that you don't think that might affect you, right? For example, when we wake up, what's the first trigger we see? The phone. We wake up to our phone right beside us. What's the first thing we do? We check for notifications. And we start scrolling like zombies on the phone. Through our Facebook feeds, through our Twitter, TikTok, whatever. And before you know it, you've wasted your whole morning. And then you have to go to work or school or something. Now imagine if instead of that you had an alarm clock, where all you did was turn off your alarm clock, your phone was not in your bedroom, you woke up, used the washroom, got up, prayed, did dhikr, and focused. Imagine what a difference that would make in your routine. Small, but heavy in the long run. It would give you a total different morning, right? So imagine if you made several little changes like this. Imagine the huge impact it would have on your life. Small, but big. Right? So that's the first point of the first chapter. Moving on, there's a couple other points. So this carries on. So the power of tiny gains is that if you were to increase 1% every day for the whole year, at the ending of the year, you would be 37 times better than you were in the beginning of the year. Just 1%. Just a little. Small but consistent. And wallahi, this reminds you that all of this is with us in the sunnah, in the prophetic way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna Allah yuhibbu." Which type of acts does Allah love? What's the hadith? Does anyone remember it? Huh? أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. That the most beloved acts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the continuous ones, even if they're very little. Right? So if you change, like, say for instance, from tonight you decided that every day I'm just going to memorize one line of the Quran. One line. Not a page, not 3 lines, not half a page, one line. Which doesn't take more than like 3 to 4 minutes. It's just one line. If you did that every single day, 365 days of the year, you would end up memorizing a whole juz in the year. It was just 5 minutes of your day. In 5 minutes with the revision of the previous lines of the page. Yeah, because it only takes a minute to 2 to actually memorize one line. A whole juz, 5 minutes of your day. Not even half an hour, not even quarter of an hour, 5 minutes. But we don't see that. We don't recognize that. We don't try to implement such things. Rather, we would just waste our time, give our precious time to just wasting it every single day. Right? And the opposite is also true, that if you were to become worse every day by 1%, by the end of the year, you would be basically at 0%, 0.9%. You would be so bad. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ has told us that no bad sin, even a minor sin, if continuous, is a minor sin. If you do a bad sin continuously, it's not minor, it becomes a major sin. And no major sin stays a major sin with tawbah. Allah will hide it, replace it with goodness. Right? So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to us? He says that those who sin and follow it up with goodness. Right? So it's not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows us better than we know ourselves. This is why Islam is the perfect religion for all of mankind, for every place and time. You're never going to be a saint. And Allah precisely knows that. That's why He loves it when you sin and ask for forgiveness. Allah loves it when you sin and ask for forgiveness. And follow it up with goodness. And so if you have a scale, you have a graph, and on the graph, your good deeds are more than your bad deeds at the end, what do you think is going to happen? Eventually, your good deeds will become much more than your bad. Eventually, if you keep going like that, you keep decreasing one sin slowly, one good deed every year. Just one. I'm not talking about multiple, just one. You increase and you decrease. Slowly, the difference will become huge. Even if you don't win at every good deed, and you don't win at losing every bad deed. The point is, atomic habits, little good deeds, and little leaving off of sins make a phenomenal difference in your life, right? Like, one of the other points here is that small changes often appear to make no difference, right? But they make, but they have a threshold. So sometimes, say for instance, if you're learning a new language, like say for instance, you're trying to learn Arabic, and you've been at it for like more than a year or two, and you're saying, man, I don't see a difference, I don't see, I haven't changed. But be honest with yourself. If you've been continuous, look back and you've made a big difference from where you started. If you've been continuous, even if it's for like 5 minutes a day, you have made a difference looking back. So small habits have a threshold. Like they need to keep going for a certain extent, and then all of a sudden you see a big change. It doesn't happen overnight. Right? Languages are the best example for that. Like you could think that, okay, I'm not learning, and then all of a sudden I can understand. I can listen to a shaykh in Arabic and I'll understand what he's saying. It didn't happen overnight though. It was small but steady learning and growth. So the fourth point here is that atomic habits are little, but they're part of a larger system. So again, this comes back to what is resolve, what is azima. Azima again is intent, purpose with action. It's not a goal, ikhwah. Yeah? In life, you're not living for Jannah, you're living to get to Jannah. In life, you desire Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you're Muslim. You don't desire just the outcome. Likewise, you don't pray to feel spiritual. Spirituality is a byproduct of being faithful to Allah. But the purpose is Allah, being constantly connected with Him. So focus on the system, not on the outcomes. If you perfect the system, you will get the outcomes. But if you don't perfect the system, you will never get any outcomes. So if you keep going, man, I didn't memorize, this Ramadan has come around and I'm not a better Muslim. Ramadan's only 2.5 months away now? Almost 2. Isn't that incredibly crazy? We've already spent the entire year. Ramadan is upon us again. Yet where do we stand? So it needs to be small changes. It just needs to be half a page of reading. Maybe one verse of translation with tafsir. Just small things that will add up to see that you have become a better Muslim. You have become a better believer. There's another example given in this book, which is this person, he was told to go to the gym for just 5 minutes a day. He was really fat. He was like 300 and something pounds, 340 pounds or something. He said, just go to the gym 5 minutes a day. Even if you don't do anything, just get to the gym. Just for 5 minutes. Now his goal, it wasn't to be there for 5 minutes, was it? His goal was to work out, lose the weight, get strong, get healthy. But he did the 5 minutes for 2 weeks straight. He would just go there for 5 minutes and come out. Not more than that. That's it, just 5 minutes. But after 2-3 weeks of doing this, he said, since I'm always here, I might as well start working out. And in 1 year, he lost over 150 pounds. Just by building this habit of 5 minutes. His habit was 5 minutes, but his desire was more than that. So likewise, if you feel like something is very difficult to start with, say for memorizing the Quran, right? Just say, listen, it's just one ayah. It's just one ayah. I don't care. One verse or one line. I got this, that's my habit. And more than that, alhamdulillah. Less than that, okay, but I can't do less than that. Slowly you'll start to realize that one ayah became half a page. That half page became a whole page. And slowly you're memorizing and you're on your way to completing the Quran. Likewise with after Isha, again, and a huge part of this is knowledge, is ilm. Having ilm of fiqh, having ilm of aqidah, having ilm of the Quran and Sunnah, it's quite essential. Because without it, you won't know what to do, you won't know how to maximize. Right? So, do you know that any ibadah done after Isha is qiyamul layl? Any ibadah done after Isha is qiyamul layl. So, if you pray 2 rak'ahs after Isha, after your Sunnah, that's qiyam. Start with those 2 rak'ahs in your nafil, your witr, Make sure that those are there. And at the very least, make sure your witr is there. Because that counts as qiyam as well, according to many of the ulama, according to a few of the schools. You'll see that this slowly will become, okay, well, if I'm praying witr, I might as well pray 2 more rak'ahs. And slowly you'll be like, okay, let me try to pray at tahajjud. Wake up at tahajjud. Right? And slowly you'll become from those who pray at night. From the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And the point I'm trying to get at, dear brothers, is that resolutions, azm, is intent, purpose, clarity of it, with the resolve to continue with small habits and actions. You're not going to become a wali overnight. You're not going to become a strong, person who looks extremely fit, overnight. You're not going to have the best job overnight. You're not going to gain a new skill overnight. You're not going to be the best husband or the best son or the best brother or the best sister. It's through small but constant habits that will change who you are. And this is proven scientifically, and it's proven through the Quran and Sunnah. So the Quran and Sunnah already tells us, we really don't need anything else. أَحَبُّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. The most beloved acts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the constant ones, even if they're little. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to allow us to act upon us, to allow us to truly be in sync with our spiritual when it comes to salah, when it comes to zakah, when it comes to our beliefs in Allah, when it comes to knowing Allah, ma'rifatullah, when it comes to believing in qadr, when it comes to every aspect of our religion, we need to actually live it, know it, feel it, experience it. And not just merely, it's some like far-fetched thing that, I don't really know about, but I just believe in it. I come for Jum'ah, I pray 3 times a day. I try to get it to 5. That can't be the case. You need to really experience life with Islam as an answer to all of mankind. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to live by it and die by it, inshallah. Yes.
So I had a question related to, talking about. A lot of times we are very passionate, either in Ramadan, either New Year, that we're going to do X, Y, and Z, right? And we start really well for a week or 10 days. I'll give an example, like in Ramadan, I'm going to do the entire tafsir, right? And you start, first week goes by perfect. Second week, you kind of, slow down. Third week, now you're kind of used to it. But so you end up, by the time you get before the last tashra, your brakes have come back on with nafs and all the challenges. The question is, how do you maintain istiqamah or consistency in whatever you commit to yourself? Because you'll always be passionate for a bit, then it will come down. Are there any du'as? Are there any habits, any tips? Because for me personally, consistency is the issue. A lot of times I set up the right goals. I set up the right, targets for myself. It's acting upon them consistently is the challenge. Okay. Doing it for a bit is fine, but long term is where I feel some of us get challenged. So any comments on that? Or?
Very good. Perfect question. And the answer is in the lecture we gave, the entirety of it. So if somebody could give me a few points to answer the brother's question. The brother said, I lose motivation when I put goals and I can't get to them. So what advice would you give him, Because the entirety of the lecture was on this, yes?
I think it's ultimately the tawakkul and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think that's one thing.
For sure, 100%.
And then little actions, and just like don't try to create a utopia.
Very good.
Just a little bit every day, and then this is one of actually it's a follow-up to this question as well, but just related to something else. I think these little actions and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think that's the only way you could keep playing.
Precisely. It's not the goals, it's the system in which you have tiny habits. If you're able to, and again, the thing is, say for instance, your goal is Ramadan. I want to be the best in Ramadan, say for instance, right? Why is it that the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba would start to compete in fasting in Sha'ban? Why? It's because they would perfect the art of fasting and doing what that entails in Sha'ban to prepare for Ramadan. Right? And so again, it's not about goals, it's more about the system. If you, throughout the year, if you've been reading even 1 page of the Quran every day, just 1 page, you've already finished a whole Quran almost before Ramadan comes about. And so it'll be a lot easier for you to amp that up in Ramadan because you already have the habit of 1 page. You'll easily be able to finish the whole Quran in Ramadan, inshallah. Right? Likewise, if you fast 3 times every month, just say Ayyam al-Bid, or you fast every Monday, or every Thursday, or every Monday and Thursday, by the time Ramadan comes around, you'll be able to compete in Ramadan. You won't have a problem. You won't feel like, oh my God, I'm dying because I didn't have my coffee. That happens to all of us, including me, right? Like, especially in the beginning of Ramadan, you feel like you're half dead because you don't have your coffee. Your head's hurting, everything else, right? And so, if you already have a habit, it's easier to do a lot more with that habit. So if you're already doing all the ibadat in small parts, You have those small habits and you're asking Allah for His aid. But you have azm, you have resolve from before. It's easier to increase that resolve when you need to. Right? But if you don't have anything, then it's very hard to start. And it's very hard to continue it. Right? So again, it's more about the system than it really is about goals. Right? Yes?
How would you stop the bad habits that you already implemented in your life and for your daily routine?
Right. So the habit loop, right? Again, this is kind of like, it's kind of agreed upon between almost all psychologists that there are four stages to a habit. There is the cue, there is the craving, there is the response, and there's the reward. The cue, craving, response, reward. Whether it be good habits or bad habits, you will fall within this. Right? The cue is when something occurs, and that's the cue. A time of the day, a certain thing occurs, that's the cue. Right? Then you have the craving, the desire that comes from the cue. And then you have how you respond. How do you respond to this? You respond by doing something because you have the craving. Okay? And then you have the reward, either the taste or the act or the pleasure or something like that. Again, good and bad. They're both, the psychology behind it is the same. Right? So what you need to do when it comes to this is you need to make, for a good habit, make the cue obvious. Make it very obvious for yourself. Make it the most clearest thing that you could do. And for a bad habit, you need to make the cue invisible. This is why, what did the Prophet, again, remember in the khutbah we said that the person who had killed 100 people, you need to change the city in which you're in. So go to the city in which there are pious people. Because the cue is being around evil people. Right? The cue for whatever, if it's a bad addiction with your phone and watching something haram, it must be your phone with you in the morning or at night or something like that, right? That's the cue. Then you create the craving, and then you respond, and then there's a reward, and then the cycle repeats because it's a habit. So for good habits, make the cue obvious. For bad habits, make it invisible. Now the craving, make it attractive for a good habit. Make the craving attractive. Like slowly but surely, you're going to make it attractive. You're going to want it. And for bad habits, make it unattractive. Make it very difficult for yourself. Say for instance, you have a bad habit. Say, okay, every time I do this bad habit, I'm going to give like $5 in sadaqah. Now that's difficult because you continuously give $5, you're not going to have anything left. So make it unattractive. And then when it comes to the response, make your response easy for a good habit. Don't make it difficult. Right? Don't be like, okay, I have to do like a whole mile marathon or something every single day to start losing weight. Be like, no, let me just put my shoes on. That's it. And then let me just get out of the house. That's all. Let me just put my shoes on and get out of the house. That's my habit. After that, however much I walk, that's it. But I put my shoes on, that's my habit, to go for a walk. And for bad habits, make the response difficult. Put as many barriers between you and it as possible. And again, the reward, make it satisfying. Make it something that is, it satisfies you. And make it for bad habits, make the reward unsatisfying. And usually for sins, it's not satisfying. After that, you feel regret. You feel remorse if you still have a living heart. If your heart is dead now and it's been covered with blackness, then it becomes difficult to feel that. And if you can't feel anymore, then you should know that there is a big problem right now, a very big problem. Right? And you need to do like some serious 911 CPU situation, like CPR with your heart, to get back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you don't even feel bad anymore after sinning. Right? Anyways, so that's bikhtisar, in a quick summary. That's how habits work. You have a cue, you have a craving, you have a response, and you have the reward. So thank you for reminding me with your question, because I totally forgot to bring that up. Like, does that kind of help with the idea? I would really suggest reading the Atomic Habits and also listening to like Sheikh Hatim al-Hajj's explanation of Manazil al-Sa'irin to be able to work out and flesh out your psychological and spiritual state and learn how to travel towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's Hatim Al-Hajj. Just write that down. Write down. Yeah, let me check 1 second.
You mentioned the book Islamic Habits. Is that a book?
No, Atomic Habits. Yeah, there's another one. Yeah, there's another Islamic version that has. It's called The Productive Muslim. Right. That's also a book that I would suggest reading. Right. No, I think yeah, you can buy it on Amazon. The Productive Muslim and Atomic Habits. Yeah.
And the two books, Atomic Habits
is a separate book. Yeah. طيب. Any other questions? None? Comments?
I have a comment.
Yes.
So it just came to my mind. I think timing-wise, we have 2.5 months towards Ramadan starts. So I just feel, again, this is a comment to myself, but I want everyone else to benefit. If I can start making good habits that I wanted now, and maybe I want 10 and I end up only doing 3. But even if I start with something, by the time Ramadan comes, that's just a booster.
Precisely.
I feel it's good timing for this reminder because it helps prepare for Ramadan with the good habits, and then it might not be perfect.
Carry them forward. Yeah.
If we can survive till Ramadan, then inshallah, that's going to give us the energy for the rest of the year.
Precisely. No, very good. Exactly. So, like, say for instance, if you make the niyyah, khalas, I'm just going to pray my sunan. I'm just going to pray my sunan al-rawatib, the ones that are attached to every prayer. I'm just going to pray those with my prayer. Slowly you'll see that, okay, you'll be able to pray to this level. If you can achieve that, you won't have a hard time with qiyam, inshallah, in Ramadan and Taraweeh bi-idhnillah ta'ala. طيب. I think we'll stop there, inshallah. I think we've exceeded. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم اجعلنا من هداة المتقين الصالحين واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا رب العالمين بارك الله فيكم جزاكم الله خيرا for coming up. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Nu'man Atiq. We hope to see him again soon, inshallah. Hopefully everyone benefited. Inshallah, we have some refreshments for you in the back.